Hi, thanks for joining us for another episode of The Art of Canyoneering. Today we're going to talk about rappelling with a new device called the Totem. So any rappelling device that we use for canyoneering needs to be usable on 2 strands of rope. It also needs to be usable on a single strand of rope for the times when we decide to put in a static block or some kind of a releasable system. When we use a totem on a single strand of rope, it's usually because we've got a block or releasable system set up. So the rope length is probably set. If there's any twisting, they're going to come out of the bottom of the rope anyway. So all of the standard rigs that we can do with a figure 8 can be done with a totem. What I'm going to rig first is what's known as standard mode. Another thing that we can do is add a little more friction in what's called vertical mode, just by taking the break strand of the rope and passing it back through the carabiner. One of the nice things about the totem is it's very easy to add additional friction while you're rappelling. If I rig this way and I want more friction, I can take the rope with my brake hand and simply go over the top, and I've added more friction. If I want to completely lock off, I can add the friction, then pass a bight of rope through the carabiner, up over the top, and I'm locked off and my hands are free. If I want to add friction or lock off when I've got my totem rigged in normal mode, I've got to remember that my hand is coming up out of brake position, so what I like to do is squeeze the rope around the neck of the totem just to add a little extra friction, and then go up over the top to add friction. If I want to lock off, the bight of rope comes through the carabiner and over the top, and my hands are free. So one of the other nice things about the totem is we can actually rig it without even taking it off of our carabiner or even opening the carabiner. I can take a bight of rope, pass it through one of the slots, and then pull that bight up over the top of the entire totem, and I'm ready to rappel. Another way to rig the totem on a single strand of rope to get a little more friction out of it is to make a twist like this in the rope, and then take those 2 bites and pass them through the slots, and then clip these 2 loops on the back into a carabiner on your harness. This works similar to one of the 2 rope systems where I've got additional friction, and if I want to add more, I can add it just by squeezing this up against the rope. When we're rappelling on 2 strands of rope, it's because we've taken the 2 ends, matched them after we pass them through the rappel ring, and thrown them over the side of the rappel. Because they're not set to length, we do have a concern about the rope twisting. One of the nice things about the totem is we can use it in a stitch plate mode and take our 2 bights of rope, pass them through the 2 separate slots, and then clip the ropes into our carabiner. In doing that, when we rappel, both strands of rope are taking a straight path through the device and around the carabiner, so there won't be any twisting. An additional benefit we get with the totem is on longer rappels where you want to vary the amount of friction you're getting from the top to the bottom. You can do that just by squeezing this. The more you squeeze, the more friction you're going to get and the slower you'll go. Another system we can use with the totem is what I call the Z-rig rappel. This time I'm going to take 2 bights of rope and pass them through the 2 slots. And I'm going to take my short tether and clip into those 2 bights of rope. And then take the rope and pass it through the big hole of the totem and clip that into a carabiner on my harness. Doing that gives me quite a bit more friction. Not necessarily important on this 9mm rope, but if you're on a skinnier rope like an 8mm, having the extra friction really comes in handy. Another way we can rig the totem is with what's called a carabiner brake rappel. Take the 2 ropes, pass the bights through the slots, and then bring them forward so you can clip a carabiner from your safety tether around those strands, and then let the ropes come up against the spine of the carabiner. And of course we can also rig the totem in canyon mode like we would on a normal figure 8 by passing the 2 bights of rope through the big hole into the carabiner, and we're all set. Another thing that the totem works really well for is something called a stop and go rappel. To rig a stop and go, I put the totem on a carabiner in the big hole, pass a bight of rope through that big hole, and put a twist in it. This can be done with a regular figure 8, but what makes the Totem nice is you've got this long piece right here for more leverage, so when I'm ready to go, it's easier to squeeze with my non-brake hand. So when the stop and go is rigged, it locks on its own. When I'm ready to go, I need to be in control with the brake hand, and I take my non-brake hand, push the lever up, which releases it, and lets me move. And if I want to stop again, I just let go, and it locks up. Another thing that we can do with the Totem, we can rig it on our harness without even using a carabiner. Sometimes it's advantageous to extend our rappel device away from our harness. With the Totem, I can girth hitch a short sling onto the Totem and then girth hitch that whole thing onto my harness, and I can still rig the rope by passing that bight through a slot and then up over the top, and I'm ready to rappel.